Morning and welcome to Hank's True Barbecue. I'm up in the morning and that's for a special reason. I'm gonna cook a big old brisket, but not just anyway. I thought, how can I challenge myself and do something different? And I figured, well, what if I cook a really nice brisket on the cheapest grill I could find? That sounds like a good challenge. So I got a Kettle here, 22-inch, brand X, I guess you could call it, but I thought, it has a top vent and a bottom vent. We should be able to get some indirect cooking going. I got some oak wood right here, so I'm gonna get this one properly smoked, do a classic low and slow. So let's examine this grill. So how does it differ from the more expensive brands, I guess? Now down here is a grease catcher. Looks like your ordinary grease catcher, slightly smaller. We have the Kettle, of course. There's the cheapo bimetal thermometer, regular top vent. So far so good, I guess. Now here you can see a few differences. For example, the grates, you can't flip them open in one end. Also, if you look closely in the bottom, you can see the 4 vent holes down there. Let me get that grate out the way. Also, there's no ash sweeper, so we'll see how it goes with a long cook like a brisket, but I think we should be okay. Slightly different mounting of the grill grate support here. But overall, I would say, yeah, an ordinary kettle, but quite a bit cheaper. Compared to the meat we have over here, this brisket costs more than the grill. And compared to a Weber, for example, or a Napoleon or a Rösle, other known brands, I guess you could get 4 or 5 of these for 1 Weber. So I think that's a good price. So have I done any modifications to make this work, to help me out a little bit? Yes, I did. As usual, I put a felt gasket, a sealing gasket around here, self-adhesive, which really helps. That means air is getting out of the top vent and into the bottom vent and nowhere in between. So I think this is a super cheap mod that really makes a difference. The other thing I did was to get and drop in a slow and sear, one of my favorite barbecue tools. This fits just as well in this one, just as in the Napoleon or the Rösle or the Weber, for example. So that's gonna be nice. Get me a true 2-zone setup. Fill this one with briquettes and some water in the water reservoir, and we should be up and running in a little while. All right, time to prep the brisket. I did trim it beforehand. I've done it in quite a few videos anyway, so no point in watching me just carve fat off a brisket. This one's upside down, as you can see. I'm gonna use my own Hank's Bonafide beef rub. I think it's a good match, but salt and pepper works just fine. So does your own favorite rub. So we're just gonna apply an even layer like this. Get it in there. This one's nice because it contains shiitake powder, so to boost that umami flavor of the meat. Looking good. Flip it over. Now I left just a little bit more fat than I usually do. I'm gonna see how I like that, so that's why I've trimmed it the way I've done. Get some in here also. It's looking good. This is a chef's exclusive American brisket. I've done them before. I think they're really good, so hopefully this one will turn out just fine. Nice, brisket's rubbed, so let's get that fire going. Okay, while that's coming up to temp, I'm gonna give it a little help and add some water to the water pan. Alright, the grill is coming up to temp nicely. Gonna add some wood for smoking. Now this is the drawback of having grates that don't flip open. Gonna start with 3 chunks and then get the brisket on. Big old brisket. I'm gonna place it with a point closer to the fire because it can take more heat. Get a probe, 1 probe in the flat, 1 probe in the point. Ah, that's nice, good smoke coming already. The nice thing about a gasket is it seals really well. So it's been 4 hours. I think it's time for a look. Ooh, that's a good looking brisket. Bark is coming along nicely, really moist. We've hit the stall big time now, so it's gonna spend some time here before temperature curve moves up again, but this is looking good. All right, 7 hours in. This is looking good. Quick status check. Good bark, looking really nice. We're tagging along nicely at 225 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, so a little status update. Now, as you just saw, the bark is looking fabulous. I still want just a bit more, so 30 to 60 minutes and then I'll wrap. So we're like in one and a half hour into the stall now, so what I'm waiting for is really the bark. Once it's barked up real good, that's when I'm going to wrap it. Sometimes that happens mid-stall, sometimes after the stall or at the end of the stall. That's what I usually do, but I'm cooking just a bit lower temp today than I usually do. Typically I cook at 260 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 130, 135 degrees Celsius, but now I'm doing a classic low and slow at 225. So that's why I'm most likely going to wrap mid-stall instead. And then keep it going, and I'm going to bump up the temps just a bit after I wrapped it, because by then it's all good and ready, so I'm just going to push it all the way to the finish line. I'll be back in a little while when it's time to wrap. Okay, so it's time to wrap. And the weather is turning bad, so I want to do this before it starts to rain also. See if we can hang this one here. I'll put it down there. Get the probes out. I need a weight so the butcher paper doesn't fly all the way over the place. Good enough. Oh, gorgeous little brisket. This looks good, sure does. That should do it. Nice little package. Back on the grill until done, which is 95 degrees Celsius, 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit, or if it's probe tender, whatever happens first. So we'll see. All right, so we're done. Brisket's up to temp. Time to drop it into the faux cambro here. I put some aluminum foil, basically just to avoid having too much cleanup. So I'm gonna put it in here. It's gonna rest for at least 1 hour, and then we're gonna slice it. Nice one. All right, it's time to unwrap the little package. Now let's see if we can summarize this first. We've been running this dirt cheap grill for 9.5 hours, 1.5 hour rest. That's almost, well, 11.5 hours total cook time. This has really performed like a champ. Locked in on 225 and stayed like flatline for several hours. I just did minor adjustments. I did add a few wood chunks after a while. Refilled the water reservoir. That's very common. You have to do that when cooking. But overall, super smooth. I'm really happy with it. I think that modification with the gasket really helps, and the slow and sear really helps, of course. So, but overall, great cook. Really solid. Now I haven't seen the brisket since I wrapped it in butcher paper and put it in this faux cambro. So I think it's time to unwrap and slice and check out what we have. You never know until you unwrap it. So I think it's about time. All right, when picking it up, it's good to use gloves because it's going to be super hot still. This faux cambro insulates heat like nothing else. So, ooh, nice steaming package. Well, nothing wrong with the smell, I'll tell you that. It's going to be a lot of juice in here. You can see how greasy it is. All right. Now this is a good sign of a juicy brisket. Now look at that. Gorgeous. Feels good, nice, wobbly, good tender. Great tasting bark. Let's see if we can slice this one. This is looking good. Good flavor. Really nice. So I'm gonna separate the point and the flat. I know the flat extends underneath, but still, I think this is a good place to start. Let's see how it looks. Nice, good smoke ring, real juicy. Ow, still burning hot. This is the way to cook a brisket. And imagine we did this in a cooker that's cheaper than the actual brisket. Sweet. Last point/flat slice. Classic tenderness test. Folds over your finger. That's good. And the pull test falls apart. I think this is a brisket done right. No doubt about it. I'm gonna slice them up. I'm gonna invite my neighbor because this is way too much food for myself. But this is, man, this is looking good. Nice, juicy flat. So good. I think this is a win. This just goes to show what you can do with a cheap cooker. Alright, just wanted to say before I get some serious meat sweats that this was a fun cook, really good. Excellent brisket. It was fun to cook on a dirt cheap grill. So thanks for watching and see you next week.